You're not lost. You're just afraid to begin. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Yet for many of us, that first step feels like standing at the edge of a vast, unknown canyon. We often tell ourselves we are lost or waiting for the right time. But the truth is usually much simpler. We are just afraid to begin. Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we are diving deep into how you can transform that paralyzing fear into the fuel for your personal growth and lasting happiness. Life isn't passing you by. It's waiting for you to claim it. What is one dream you've been putting off because of fear? Watch until the end to learn how to bridge the gap between where you are and where you're meant to be. And be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey might just inspire someone else to take their first step today. 1. The myth of being lost. The sensation of being lost is rarely a true lack of direction, but rather a sophisticated illusion crafted by the ego to delay the inevitable discomfort of a spiritual awakening. We often tell ourselves that we are wandering in a trackless wilderness. Yet if we look closely, we find that the fog surrounding us is not a natural weather pattern of the soul, but a deliberate smokescreen designed to protect us from the perceived threat of change. According to Jungian philosophy, the ego is a master of these defensive maneuvers, creating a state of artificial confusion to shield us from the existential pain that accompanies any significant transformation. This internal haze serves as a buffer between who we are and who we are destined to become, allowing us to stay within the familiar boundaries of our current identity rather than stepping into the unknown. When we claim we do not know what to do, we are often engaging in a subtle form of self-deception, because deep within the quiet chambers of our intuition, the path has always been visible. The truth is that we are not lacking a compass. We are simply terrified of the destination it is pointing toward. The weight of this realization is what we often describe as feeling stuck or adrift. Yet these words are merely masks for a deeper fear of the high price that comes with following our true calling. To embark on a journey of genuine spirituality is to accept that the old versions of ourselves must be surrendered to make room for a higher state of consciousness. Like a traveler standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest, we might find ourselves suddenly checking our bags for the 10th time, or claiming the stars are too dim to guide us, all while knowing exactly which trail leads home. This resistance is a natural response to the magnitude of the soul's demands, as the ego recognizes that once we begin, there is no returning to the safety of our former ignorance. We choose the myth of being lost because it grants us a temporary reprieve from the responsibility of our own power, acting as a sanctuary where we can hide from the light of our own potential. However, the longer we linger in this manufactured confusion, the more we realize that the cost of staying still is far greater than the cost of moving forward. Transitioning from this state of paralysis requires a courageous confrontation with the smokescreen itself, acknowledging that our uncertainty is a choice rather than a circumstance. We must understand that the feeling of being lost is actually a sign of proximity to greatness. The ego only fights this hard when it knows we are on the verge of a breakthrough that will change us forever. Instead of searching for external maps or waiting for a sign from the heavens, We must be willing to walk through the fire of our own resistance, trusting that the path will reveal itself one step at a time. The moment we stop negotiating with our fear and admit that we have always known the way, the illusion of being lost dissolves instantly. This clarity is the hallmark of a true spiritual awakening, where we finally trade the comfort of our excuses for the thrill of our expansion. By embracing the direction we have been avoiding, we discover that we were never truly lost at all. We were simply waiting for the moment we were brave enough to finally begin. Are you ready to stop waiting and begin your true path? If this message resonated with you, comment below, "I choose to begin," and declare your commitment to your journey of awakening. 2. The symbolic death. To truly begin something new in your life, you must first come to terms with the reality that the current version of you has to die, a process that sits at the very heart of spirituality and genuine spiritual development. This is why you feel that heavy, paralyzing weight in your chest whenever you contemplate a major shift. You are not actually lost or lacking a destination, but rather you are terrified of the symbolic death required to move forward. Starting a new chapter necessitates the intentional destruction of an identity you have spent years, or perhaps even decades, meticulously constructing. Whether you have defined yourself as the stable professional, the people pleaser, or the perfect partner, these labels have become a cage that feels like a home. Your ego will fight desperately to protect these structures because it instinctively prefers familiar pain over the abyss of a new, unknown existence. You have anchored your sense of safety in the known, even if that reality makes you miserable, because the ego perceives any fundamental change as a literal threat to your survival. When you stand on the precipice of a new life, you are not merely looking at a different career path or a change in scenery. You are witnessing the inevitable end of the person you used to be. You must realize that this intense fear is not a warning to stop, but a confirmation that you are standing at the threshold of a profound transformation. True growth is not a simple matter of adding new skills or positive habits to your current frame. It is an alchemical process of burning away the dross of your old self to reveal the gold hidden underneath. This abyss you fear is actually a fertile ground of pure potentiality, yet you view it as a void simply because you cannot yet see the reflection of the person you are becoming. You may find yourself clinging to the wreckage of a ship that has already sunk, hoping it will somehow carry you to shore, when the only way to reach a new land is to trust your strength and swim into the deep blue. Every great tradition within the realm of spirituality teaches that a seed must break and cease to be a seed in order for the tree to grow, and you are currently in that necessary breaking phase. It feels like destruction, but it is actually the highest form of creation taking place within your soul. Your anxiety is a protective mechanism of a mind that wants to keep you small and safe. But your spirit understands that you were meant for a journey much larger than the narrow box of your current comfort zone. To choose spiritual development is to consciously participate in this cycle of death and rebirth, accepting that you cannot carry the heavy baggage of your past into the brightness of your future. You must be willing to be a beginner again, to be nobody for a period of time, so that you can eventually emerge as the person you are truly meant to be. This transition involves letting go of the desperate need for approval from those who only recognize the old version of you, and trusting that the universe will provide the bridge as you step off the cliff. The middle period is often the most grueling because you are no longer the person you were, but you have not yet fully inhabited the person you are going to be. You are in the chrysalis, where the old structure melts away before the wings are formed. Do not let the silence of this phase fool you into thinking you are failing. This is where the most vital work occurs, in the quiet moments where you choose faith over the ego's demand for absolute certainty. You are being called to trade your perceived security for the freedom of your soul. And while that trade is frightening, it is the only way to truly live. Embrace the trembling in your hands as a sign of life, and walk forward into the unknown, knowing that the only thing you are truly losing is a version of yourself that you have already outgrown. 3. The 3 invisible terrors. Deep within the quiet spaces of your soul, you may feel as though you are wandering through a thick, directionless fog. Yet the profound truth offered by spiritual wisdom is that you are not actually lost. You are simply standing paralyzed at the threshold of a new life because you are terrified to begin. This paralysis is driven by 3 invisible terrors that act as silent anchors, the first of which is the perceived death of your identity. You have spent years constructing a version of yourself based on your job title, your relationships, and your social standing, and the thought of stepping into the unknown feels like a literal ending of your existence. You cling to the old version of yourself because it feels safe, even if it no longer fits, forgetting that growth requires the shedding of old skins. As the philosopher Lao Tzu profoundly noted, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." By refusing to start, you are attempting to protect a ghost, choosing the suffocating comfort of a persona that has already served its purpose, rather than embracing the expansive, authentic self that is waiting to be born. This fear of losing who you were prevents you from discovering who you are meant to become, keeping you trapped in a cycle of mourning for a life that no longer sustains your spirit. Transitioning from this fear of loss, you encounter the second invisible terror, the overwhelming weight of total responsibility. For a long time, you may have told yourself that you are merely waiting for a sign, a cosmic green light, or a perfect moment to arrive before you take action. However, this waiting is often a clever disguise for your ego's desire to avoid accountability. As long as you are waiting, you are not responsible for your life's direction. You are a passenger in the hands of fate. But the moment you choose to begin, the burden of success or failure shifts entirely onto your shoulders, and that level of agency can feel frighteningly heavy. You realize that there is no longer anyone else to blame for your stagnation. And as George Bernard Shaw famously stated, liberty means responsibility. That is why most men dread it. Embracing spiritual wisdom means recognizing that this responsibility is not a burden, but the ultimate form of empowerment. When you stop looking for external validation or divine permission, you reclaim the power to shape your own destiny, understanding that even a mistake made in pursuit of your truth is more valuable than a lifetime of passive safety. Beyond the fear of responsibility lies the third and perhaps most primal terror, the sheer vastness of the unknown. Your ego is an ancient mechanism designed for survival, and to the ego, uncertainty is synonymous with danger. It would rather keep you in a state of known misery, a job you hate, a stagnant relationship, or a dull routine than allow you to step into an uncertain freedom where the outcomes are not guaranteed. You stay where you are because the pain you currently feel is familiar and predictable, making it feel safer than the potential joy that exists just beyond your current horizon. This instinctual resistance creates a mental prison where you trade your potential for the illusion of security. To break free, you must train your mind to see the unknown not as a threat, but as a field of infinite possibility where your spirit can finally expand. As Ralph Waldo Emerson encouraged, always do what you are afraid to do, because it is only by crossing the border of your comfort zone that you can access the deeper layers of your being. By confronting these three terrors, the death of your old identity, the weight of your own choices, and the mystery of the future, you begin to realize that the path was never hidden from you. You were simply waiting for the courage to realize that you are the architect of the way forward, and the only thing standing between you and your evolution is the willingness to take that first, terrifying, and beautiful step. Comment, I am no longer lost, if this wisdom found you at the right time. 4. The hidden benefit of stagnation. The concept of the shadow benefit of stagnation serves as a profound psychological anchor, a hidden sanctuary where we retreat when the weight of our own potential becomes too heavy to carry. While we often lament our lack of progress to friends and mentors, claiming that we are simply lost or waiting for a divine signal, there is a secret, comforting safety in remaining exactly where we are. In this state of perpetual limbo, we are shielded from the stinging arrows of external judgment and the terrifying possibility of failing in the public eye. As long as we do not try, we cannot truly fail. We remain cocooned in a world where our limitations are never tested and our flaws are never exposed to the cold light of day. This inertia is not a void, but a protective barrier that keeps us from the vulnerability of being truly seen. We find ourselves lingering in the shimmering realm of possibility, a seductive space where we can still imagine ourselves as anything a visionary, an innovator, or a sage without ever having to endure the friction of reality. This attachment to what could be acts as a barrier to true spirituality, as it prioritizes the ego's desire for an unblemished image over the soul's fundamental need for genuine experience. Moving from this infinite landscape of thought into the narrow realm of action feels like a loss of freedom. Yet it is the only path toward a meaningful spiritual awakening. To act is to commit, and to commit is to choose one specific identity while mourning the 1,000 other versions of ourselves that might have been. It is the daunting transition from being a person of potential to being a person of practice. We often stay stuck because we are terrified that once we commit to a single path, we will discover that we are not as gifted or as capable as we imagined ourselves to be in our dreams. However, this stagnation is a form of spiritual dishonesty. It is a refusal to engage with the world as it is. By clinging to the safety of being lost, we avoid the heavy responsibility of our own power. We must realize that the shadow benefit of safety is actually a cage that prevents the expansion of our consciousness. Connecting this internal resistance to our external reality, we see that the fear of beginning is actually a fear of the truth of our own existence. We are not waiting for a map. We are waiting for the courage to be imperfect. Only by stepping out of the safety of the fog and into the definitive, often messy realm of action can we begin to transform our abstract wisdom into a lived reality, finally shedding the illusions that keep us small so that we may finally grow into our destined shape. 5. Movement over clarity. You often find yourself standing at the edge of a new chapter, feeling a deep sense of stillness that you mistake for being lost. But the truth is much simpler and perhaps more challenging to face. You are not lost. You are just afraid to begin. This paralysis usually stems from a desire for total certainty. Yet you must understand that clarity is not a prerequisite for movement. Rather, clarity is the reward for action. In the journey of spirituality and your personal spiritual development, you might feel that you need a map of the entire forest before you take a single step into the trees. But the universe does not work that way. When you wait for the right moment or a perfect plan, you are actually engaging in a subtle, sophisticated form of procrastination that keeps your soul stagnant. You are asking for the light to shine on the entire path, but the spiritual law of growth dictates that the light only turns on for the second step once you have had the courage to take the first step in the dark. Trusting this process is a vital part of your spiritual development because it requires you to lean into the unknown and believe that the ground will be there to meet your feet. Every time you hesitate, waiting for a sign or a guarantee, you are essentially telling yourself that your inner guidance isn't enough. But the wisdom you seek is already within you, waiting to be activated by your motion. Movement creates a kinetic energy that clears the fog of doubt. And as you move, you begin to see the world not as a series of obstacles, but as a series of unfolding opportunities. If you stay still, the fear of the unknown grows larger. But once you start walking, that same fear transforms into the fuel of experience. You must realize that you will never feel fully ready because readiness is a myth. You become ready through the act of doing. This is why movement over clarity is a central truth of a meaningful life, as it forces you to prioritize your purpose over your comfort. When you choose to step out despite the shadows, you align yourself with the natural flow of spirituality, which is always moving, evolving, and expanding. Stop demanding that the future reveal its secrets to you before you have proven your commitment to the present. The first step is often the heaviest, weighted down by what-ifs and should-haves. But once that weight is lifted through action, the subsequent steps become lighter and more intuitive. You have the power to break the cycle of overthinking by simply deciding that doing something is better than doing nothing at all. As you embrace this shift, you will find that the path reveals itself 1 yard at a time, and the perfect moment you were waiting for was actually the moment you decided to stop waiting. Your spiritual development depends on this willingness to be messy, to be uncertain, and to be brave enough to start without a compass, knowing that your heart is the only guide you truly need. This internal navigation system only calibrates when you are in transit. It cannot give you coordinates if you remain at the starting line. By accepting that your journey is a series of revelations rather than a fixed destination. You release the burden of having to be right the first time. You discover that even a step in the wrong direction provides more information than standing still ever could. This is the essence of a living spirituality. It is active, not passive. It asks you to trade your safety for your soul's expansion. Every time you push through the resistance of the unknown, you are building a muscle of faith that will carry you through much larger challenges in the future. You are not meant to see the end from the beginning. You are meant to build the bridge as you walk across it. The profound realization that movement precedes insight will liberate you from the chains of perfectionism and allow you to finally claim the life that has been waiting for you to simply show up. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on choosing movement over clarity and finding the courage to finally begin. 6. The danger of enantiodromia, the collapse. Deep within the quiet spaces of your soul, there is a persistent whisper calling you toward a higher version of yourself. Yet you likely find yourself standing still, paralyzed by a fear of the unknown. You might tell yourself that you are lost or searching for clarity, but the truth is often much simpler. You are simply afraid to begin. This hesitation is not a neutral act. It is a dangerous stagnation that invites a profound psychological phenomenon known as enantiodromia. This concept, a cornerstone of ancient spiritual wisdom, suggests that when any force reaches its ultimate extreme, it must inevitably turn into its opposite. In the context of your life, if you push your resistance to change to its absolute limit, your psyche will eventually rebel, manifesting a sudden and total collapse of your current reality to restore balance. As the legendary Carl Jung once noted, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If you refuse to consciously evolve, your unconscious mind will take the reins, forcing a correction through the agonizing experiences of panic attacks, chronic anxiety, or a shattering identity crisis. You must realize that these moments of intense psychological distress are not punishments dealt by a vengeful universe, but are actually desperate interventions designed to save you from a life of hollow repetition. When you ignore the natural cycle of growth, you become like a dammed river where the pressure builds to an unsustainable level. The resulting flood is not an act of destruction, but a necessary release to prevent permanent stagnation. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely observed, unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. By clinging to the safety of what you know, you are inadvertently suffocating your spirit, forcing it to scream for air through the symptoms of a breakdown. This collapse is the soul's way of burning down the structures that no longer serve you, clearing the scorched earth so that something authentic can finally take root. It is an act of radical grace disguised as a catastrophe, ensuring that you do not spend your entire existence trapped in a version of yourself that you have already outgrown. Stepping into this fire requires a shift in perspective where you no longer view your fear as an enemy, but as a gateway. The discomfort you feel right now is the friction of your old identity rubbing against the vast potential of your future self. It is a sign that the you have been pretending to be is no longer large enough to contain the truth of who you actually are. Instead of waiting for the walls to crumble around you, You can choose to lean into the transformation today, understanding that the chaos of the beginning is infinitely better than the slow death of standing still. By embracing this spiritual wisdom, you recognize that your life is not falling apart. It is being dismantled so that it can be rebuilt with greater integrity. You are being called to move from a state of quiet desperation into a state of active creation, trusting that the universe will catch you once you finally have the courage to jump. Every moment of resistance is a moment of wasted life, but every moment of beginning is a reclamation of your divine power and purpose. To honor your commitment to balance and inner strength, declare your resolve. Comment below, "I choose to begin," to acknowledge your path toward wholeness and inspire others to step out of the shadows of fear. The truth is, you aren't lost. You are simply standing at the threshold of a new chapter, waiting for your courage to catch up with your soul's calling. Remember, clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from the simple, brave act of taking that first step. Trust the journey, embrace the unknown, and let your inner wisdom guide you forward. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who might need a reminder to start today. To stay connected on this journey of growth, make sure to subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom and turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming insights. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. 7 signs that show you are being targeted by toxic people. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like a magnet for negativity, or that certain individuals are instinctively drawn to drain your energy? You are not alone, and according to analytical psychology, this is rarely a coincidence. Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom. In today's video, we are diving deep into the unconscious dynamics of relationships to uncover the 7 signs that you are being targeted by toxic people. These aren't just red flags, they are invitations to strengthen your boundaries and integrate your shadow. By applying these insights to your daily life, you can reclaim your energy, move from being a victim to a victor, and find the authentic happiness you deserve. Which of these signs have you encountered in your own journey? Let us know in the comments below, and let's begin this path to self-discovery together. 1. Unusual, invasive attention. The first and perhaps most chilling sign that you are being targeted is the presence of unusual, invasive attention, a phenomenon that feels less like admiration and more like a dissection of your character. You may notice that this person watches you with an intensity that feels heavy, a gaze that does not linger with affection, but pierces through you with cold calculation. This is because they do not admire you. They study you. Much like a predator observing prey in the wild, they are monitoring your every move, specifically analyzing how you handle pressure, stress, and disrespect to gather data on your psychological makeup. This phase is not about connection. It is a reconnaissance mission where they are mapping the topography of your emotions to find your breaking points and your boundaries. They are quietly noting what makes you smile, what makes you anxious, and most importantly, what you are willing to tolerate in the name of politeness or kindness. Beneath the guise of being interested in your life, They are running a series of silent tests, perhaps dropping a subtle insult or crossing a small boundary just to see if you will correct them or let it slide. As this invasive observation continues, they are looking for specific traits that mark you as a high-value target in their distorted reality. If their data collection reveals that you are deeply empathetic, forgiving, or slow to anger, they do not view these as virtues to be cherished, but as vulnerabilities to be leveraged. In their eyes, your patience signals that you are a manageable target, someone who will absorb their toxicity without immediate retaliation. They are searching for the person who will rationalize their bad behavior, the one who looks for the good in everyone, because that is the person they can control for the longest period. This is a perversion of connection, where your spiritual light becomes a beacon for their shadow. They crave your stability because they are internally chaotic. Consequently, this intense focus is the precursor to manipulation, as they are essentially building a user manual for your psyche, learning exactly which buttons to press to elicit the emotional supply they desperately need. Therefore, when you feel that piercing, analytical gaze, trust your instincts and realize that true connection feels like freedom, not like being placed under a microscope for inspection. Comment below, "I protect my energy," if you are ready to set boundaries against invasive attention. 2. Testing your boundaries. The journey of spiritual growth often means becoming a beacon of light in a world that can sometimes feel too dark. And it is this very radiance that attracts those living in the shadows. As you embark on your journey of self-awareness and growth, you will inevitably encounter individuals, conscious or unconscious, who seek to dim your light. And one of the most dangerous methods they employ is the subtle, calculated erosion of your personal sovereignty. You may find this movement begins not with a loud, hostile declaration, but with a silent, almost imperceptible intrusion into your personal space, a phenomenon best understood as the rigorous testing of your boundaries. This is no accident. It's a strategic probing, where toxic individuals deliberately cross boundaries with petty insults disguised as jokes, frequently interrupting you while you're speaking, or asking personal questions that you feel are slightly intrusive to the level of intimacy you share, all with the aim of measuring your tolerance and seeing how much of their burden you're willing to bear. Carl Jung warned us about the shadow, the repressed dark side of the psyche, and these individuals often manifest their own unresolved shadows by projecting them onto you, probing whether you accept their projection without resistance. As this testing phase progresses, the relationship becomes a psychological game where your reactions are meticulously recorded. If you choose to overlook these minor faults in order to appear kind or maintain peace, you inadvertently send a signal that you may succumb to their will. In the spiritual realm, we often confuse passivity with peace, believing that turning the other cheek means allowing our spirit to be trampled upon. But true wisdom recognizes that a boundary without consequences is merely a suggestion. When you allow these interruptions or insults to go unchecked, the toxic individual realizes your fortress is unguarded, and this knowledge allows them to go further, escalating their behavior from minor annoyances to serious violations of your dignity. However, the situation will change dramatically if you decide to stand firm and assert your value. If you resist their intrusion, you will find that they don't simply apologize and retreat. Instead, they often change tactics, transforming from aggressor into victim, or psychologically manipulating you into believing you are overly sensitive. But they never truly stop testing the limits of your patience. This persistent testing is characteristic of someone who views relationships not as the union of two souls, but as a struggle for dominance. And recognizing this is crucial for your continued growth. They constantly examine the structural integrity of your self-esteem, searching for loopholes where they can insert influence and control. It's important to understand that their behavior rarely relates to you personally, but rather to their need to regulate their own inner turmoil by controlling the external environment, including you. By maintaining a state of heightened vigilance and observing these interactions through the lens of spiritual wisdom, you can recognize what these tests are: invitations to lower your vibration and engage with a lower frequency of existence. Your journey demands constant vigilance, understanding that even as they change their methods, from overt criticism to passive-aggressive silence, their underlying intention to break down your defenses remains unchanged until you fortify your boundaries to be impenetrable. And recognizing that you are being targeted in this way is not a curse, but a call to strengthen your resolve, forcing you to clearly define who you are and what you allow into your sacred space. 3. Infiltrating your emotional space. Have you ever met someone new who, within moments of the introduction, made you feel as though you were the center of their universe, yet left you with a subtle, nagging feeling of unease that you could not quite place? This is often the first and most dangerous of the 7 signs that you are being targeted by a toxic individual, a maneuver that can be best described as the infiltration of your emotional space. In the realm of spiritual wisdom, we are often taught that trust is something sacred, a garden that must be tended to and grown over time. But a toxic person does not have the patience for seasons. They want the harvest immediately. They attempt to bypass professional or social distance with alarming speed, disregarding the natural boundaries that exist to protect your psyche. Instead of engaging in the polite, surface-level small talk that characterizes a healthy new acquaintance, like discussing the weather, work, or shared hobbies, they dive straight into the deep end, asking probing questions about your insecurities, your past traumas, and your current stressors. They do this under the cleverly disguised guise of concern or deep empathy, making you feel seen and heard in a way that feels intoxicatingly validating. However, you must understand that this is not genuine connection. It is reconnaissance. As the renowned Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once profoundly stated, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." This quote perfectly illuminates their motivation, because their intrusion is not an act of love, but a calculated move for power. They are systematically scanning your emotional architecture to find where the doors are unlocked and where the windows are left open. They are hunting for your weak points, not to heal them, but to catalog them for later use. By encouraging you to overshare before trust has been earned, they create a false sense of intimacy, a phenomenon often called artificial closeness, which tricks your brain into believing this person is a safe haven. This is a violation of your spiritual boundaries. In spiritual wisdom, we understand that your energy is your currency, and you should not spend it on those who have not proven their worthiness to hold it. When you reveal your deepest fears to a manipulator, you are essentially handing them the blueprints to your soul, showing them exactly where to strike to hurt you the most when the mask inevitably slips. They want to know that you have abandonment issues so they can threaten to leave you. They want to know you feel inadequate at work so they can subtly criticize your career choices later. It is vital to remember that healthy relationships unfold like a flower, petal by petal, whereas toxic entanglements feel like an avalanche, overwhelming, fast, and destructive. If you feel rushed, if you feel that someone is prying into the dark corners of your life too soon, listen to that quiet voice of intuition. As the poet Maya Angelou famously said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." If they show you they have no respect for the pace of your heart, believe that they will have no respect for the peace of your soul. Protect your inner sanctuary, for it is the most precious thing you possess, and true companions will respect the walls you have built until you are ready to open the gate yourself. Are you ready to reclaim your emotional space? If so, comment below. I choose boundaries to affirm your protection against toxic influence. 4. Subtle linguistic dominance. There is a profound and often unsettling realization that occurs when you begin to walk the path of true self-discovery. A realization that the darkness we fear is rarely a monster screaming in the night, but rather a shadow whispering kindly in our ear. As you deepen your understanding of the human psyche and traverse the delicate stages of your spiritual awakening, you will inevitably encounter individuals who do not wish to see you rise, but rather seek to anchor you to their own unresolved depths. It is essential to recognize that these toxic interactions are not always defined by open hostility or obvious aggression, which are easy to spot and defend against. Instead, the most dangerous form of control is invisible, cloaked in the guise of friendship or concern, and it begins with a psychological maneuver known as subtle linguistic dominance. This is not merely a conversation. It is a calculated game of hierarchy, where the other person uses language not to connect, but to position themselves vertically above you, establishing a subtle but firm dominance that is designed to erode your confidence without you even realizing the ground is shifting beneath your feet. You must pay close attention to the specific texture of their words, for this dominance often manifests through condescending tones that are soft enough to be plausible deniability, but sharp enough to cut through your self-esteem. They are masters of the backhanded compliment, a verbal weapon wrapped in silk, where they might say things like, "You are so brave to wear that I could never pull it off," or "It is great that you are finally trying to get your life together." Statements that ostensibly sound like praise, but actually carry a heavy, hidden payload of judgment and superiority. This behavior is deeply rooted in what Carl Jung would describe as the projection of the shadow. They project their own insecurities and need for control onto you, using unsolicited advice as a primary mechanism to reinforce this imbalance. When they offer you guidance that you never asked for, they are not acting out of altruism or genuine care, but rather they are subtly implying that you are incapable of managing your own existence and that they possess the wisdom you lack, thereby stealing your autonomy and painting themselves as the benevolent savior in a narrative where you are the helpless victim. The most chilling aspect of this dynamic, however, is not just what they say, but how they observe you while they say it. These individuals are predators of the psyche who meticulously watch for your micro-reactions, those split-second involuntary shifts in your facial expression or body language that reveal your inner state. They are scanning you for a flinch, a moment of hesitation, or a flicker of self-doubt, because these tiny signals act as confirmation that their tactic is working and that their barb has landed. If you pause, stutter, or look away in confusion, you have unwittingly handed them the validation they crave, proving to them that your emotional state is now under their jurisdiction. In the realm of spirituality, where your goal is to reclaim your sovereign energy and maintain a high vibration, falling prey to this linguistic trap acts as a heavy anchor, draining your vitality and leaving you questioning your own reality. This is a test of your awareness, for the toxic individual relies entirely on your lack of consciousness to maintain their control. They need you to remain asleep to the nuance of their manipulation. However, as you progress through your spiritual awakening, your intuition becomes sharper, and you begin to hear the undertone beneath the pleasantries, recognizing that their help is actually a disguise for their need to feel superior. By seeing this behavior for what it is, a desperate attempt by their ego to secure a sense of power, you strip them of their influence. You learn to stand firm in your own truth, offering no micro-reaction for them to feed upon. And in that stillness, you break the cycle of dominance, proving that while they may try to use words to build a cage around you, your spirit has already found the key to freedom. 5. Manipulating group dynamics. Have you ever walked into a room where you once felt welcomed, only to be met with a sudden, inexplicable chill in the air? It is a heavy, suffocating silence that suggests words were being exchanged just moments before you arrived, and it is one of the most unsettling indicators that you are being targeted by a toxic individual who is manipulating group dynamics against you. This behavior goes far beyond simple gossip or high school cliques. It is a calculated psychological maneuver designed to dismantle your reality. The toxic person understands that to control you, they must first isolate you, and to isolate you, they must poison the social soil in which you stand. They systematically begin to distort the perception others have of you, planting seeds of doubt and creating misunderstandings where none existed before. It is a shadowy art form where they act as the architect of chaos, yet often present themselves as the innocent peacemaker or the concerned friend to those around you. As you navigate this difficult terrain, you will notice that this manipulation is rarely done in plain sight. Instead, it operates through the subtle erosion of your reputation. The toxic individual will often highlight your mistakes to others, not with the intention of helping you grow, but to weaken your support system and validate their own distorted narrative. They might take a small, insignificant error you made and magnify it under a false lens of concern, whispering to your friends or colleagues, "I am so worried about them. Did you see what they did?" This is a projection of their own inner darkness, a concept deeply rooted in the philosophy of Carl Jung. By casting a shadow over your character, They attempt to hide their own insecurities and malicious intent. They are trying to sever the bonds of trust you have built with others, because a strong support system acts as a mirror that reflects your true worth. And that reflection is exactly what they want to shatter. When you are surrounded by people who love and understand you, the toxic person loses their power to define your reality. Therefore, they must cut those ties to make you easier to control. This experience, while incredibly painful, is frequently a catalyst for profound spirituality and self-discovery. When the external validation of your social circle is stripped away or tainted, you are forced to turn inward and rely on your own intuition and strength. You begin to see who truly values you and who was merely a bystander in your life. The toxic person's attempt to isolate you actually serves to filter your surroundings, leaving you only with those who possess the discernment to see the truth. In the realm of spiritual development, this is often viewed not as a punishment, but as a fierce clearing of the path. It teaches you that your value is not determined by the whispers of others or the number of people in your corner, but by the integrity of your own soul. You learn that those who are easily swayed by the poisoning of your environment were never truly your people to begin with. Furthermore, realizing that you are the target of such calculated manipulation is a sign that you possess a light or a strength that the toxic person finds threatening. They do not target those they deem beneath them. They target those who have something they envy or lack. Your resilience in the face of this social sabotage is a testament to your character. As you continue your journey, remember that the truth has a way of revealing itself in time. The cracks in their fabricated stories will eventually show, and the people who are meant to be in your life will see through the smoke and mirrors. Until then, stand firm in your truth, for this trial is forging a stronger, more discerning version of yourself, one that is no longer dependent on the approval of the crowd, but is anchored in deep self-knowledge and spiritual wisdom. Stay connected with our community of wisdom seekers by subscribing to our channel. Here, we share deep psychological insights to help you protect your energy and strengthen your spirit. Remember, you possess a unique inner strength, deserving of a life free from manipulation and full of peace. 6. Mirroring, the chameleon effect. Have you ever met someone new and felt an immediate, almost electric sense of recognition, as if you have known them for lifetimes? They seem to love everything you love. They speak with your cadence, and they validate your deepest values with an enthusiasm that feels destined. It is easy to believe that you have finally found a kindred spirit or a soulmate who understands you completely. But spiritual wisdom urges you to pause and look closer. For this intense alignment is often not destiny, but a psychological weapon known as mirroring. In the realm of dark psychology, this is often called the chameleon effect, where a toxic individual suppresses their own identity or lack thereof to perfectly mimic yours. They are studying you with the precision of a predator, observing your body language, your tone of voice, and the subtle cues of your vulnerabilities to construct a mask that looks exactly like your ideal partner or friend. You must understand that this is not compatibility. It is a strategy designed to bypass your critical thinking and lower your defenses before you even realize you are under siege. As the great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once profoundly stated, the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. In this case, the toxic person is telling you that they are exactly who you want them to be, but they are only reflecting your own light back at you to gain entry into your soul. When you are being targeted, the process feels rushed. The intimacy is manufactured at a speed that defies the natural, slow rhythm of genuine human connection. You might find yourself sharing your deepest secrets within hours of meeting them, prompted by their false vulnerability, only to find them nodding in perfect agreement with every opinion you hold. This is where your intuition and your inner spiritual wisdom must be heeded. If it feels too perfect, too fast, or too smooth, it is likely an illusion. They are holding up a mirror to your ego, feeding you the validation you crave, but there is no substance behind the glass. Carl Jung warned us about the dangers of the persona, the social mask we wear, but toxic individuals take this to a malignant extreme. They have no core self, so they steal yours for a fleeting moment to entrap you. By mimicking your values and likes, they create a false sense of safety, making you feel that to reject them would be to reject a part of yourself. However, you must remember that true spiritual connection requires the friction of difference and the patience of time to grow. Real relationships are built on the slow revelation of truth, not the instant gratification of a perfect echo. If you ignore these signs, you risk letting a vampire into your life who will drain your energy and then discard the mask the moment they have what they want. Therefore, when the connection feels dazzlingly instant, step back into your center, consult your intuition, and ask yourself, am I seeing a real person? Or am I just falling in love with my own reflection? 7. Curiosity turns into fixation. Have you ever felt a gaze that lingers just a moment too long? A sudden intensity in a relationship that feels less like connection and more like consumption? In the vast and often turbulent ocean of human interaction, we frequently encounter souls who are drawn to our light. Yet not all who approach the warmth of your spirit come with the intention of sharing it. Some come to steal it. As you journey deeper into your own spirituality, peeling back the layers of the unconscious mind to reach a state of true self-awareness, you will inevitably shine brighter, and this luminance acts as a beacon. While this light attracts fellow travelers and kindred spirits, it also draws the attention of those who dwell in the unhealed darkness of their own shadows. Carl Jung warned us that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Similarly, toxic individuals are often driven by unconscious forces they cannot control, seeking to anchor themselves to your stability. Recognizing their tactics is not just about psychology. It is a critical step in protecting your energy during your spiritual awakening, ensuring that your path remains clear of those who view your soul not as a sanctuary, but as a resource to be depleted. This brings us to the first and perhaps most deceptive sign that you are being targeted. When what appears to be innocent curiosity mutates into an unnerving fixation. At the onset, this attention can feel flattering, mimicking the intimacy of a profound connection. Yet if you look closer, you will see that they are not engaging with you. They are studying you. They monitor your moods, with a hypervigilance that feels suffocating, tracking the subtle shifts in your emotional state not to offer comfort, but to gather data. This behavior is rooted in a deep-seated need for control. For by knowing exactly what makes you tick, they believe they can manipulate the mechanism of your heart. They remember the smallest details of your life, a casual mention of a childhood fear, a preference for coffee, a specific insecurity, and while this may masquerade as affection, it is actually the weaponization of intimacy. They are hoarding these fragments of your identity to construct a cage, demanding more and more of your time until your world shrinks down to fit the size of their needs. In the realm of spirituality, we understand that true love and high vibrational connection are expansive, allowing both souls to breathe and grow. But this toxic fixation is the antithesis of growth. It is possession disguised as passion. They do not see you as an autonomous being with your own destiny. They see you as an extension of themselves, an object to be owned rather than a person to be cherished. This is why they view your independence as a mortal threat. Every time you assert your boundaries or choose to spend time in your own company, which is essential for anyone undergoing a spiritual awakening, they react with volatility or guilt. For your autonomy reminds them of their own inner emptiness. They are terrified that if you stand alone, you will realize you do not need them, and that realization shatters the illusion of control they rely on to survive. Therefore, when you notice that interest has hardened into obsession and that your freedom is being treated as a betrayal, understand that you are not being loved. You are being targeted by a spirit that seeks to feed on your light rather than ignite its own. If you are still with us, please comment, "I am protecting my peace," below. Your engagement signals to us that you are ready to set stronger boundaries. Remember, your energy is a finite resource, and recognizing these signs is the first step toward protecting it. You are not responsible for the toxicity of others, but you are responsible for the boundaries you set. Use this wisdom to reclaim your space and stand firm in your own light. If this message resonated with you, help us spread the light by hitting the like button and sharing this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Spiritual Wisdom channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest videos.